All right, good evening. It's 8:05 already, 8:06 actually, so I have to start the class. I hope you join soon. Gina, we don't have much to do because we already covered everything. We have two classes left for this course, but it is really important to first, right, we have to review everything. We have to practice because there were the last two classes, right? As you were not here, I just covered them. But it's very important that they are clear for you. So again, as you're joining so that we can practice, I'm going to give a general review of everything. Actually, we have one more thing to do, that is one extra lesson to cover. That's the first thing I'm going to do. If you join, that's going to be good. If not, again, I'm going to give this general review. And also in the meantime, right, you already have the scores for the A7 course. You got to finish everything, I believe, and it's good. All right, it is very, very good. I'm also not yet, because we still have tomorrow, actually Wednesday, because it's with you, right? Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So Wednesday is going to be our last day for A7. But again, this is already here. And again, that's positive. It means that I'm just going to send these scores to management, and you should be good with A7 scores to go to A8. But again, let's begin. I was just checking also my WhatsApp, and I didn't see any message. I hope again that you can be here at any moment. But let's continue, right? I just wanted also you to see that everything is here, that you have your score. But again, remember, this is going to be divided. Remember what I mentioned once? It's going to be 30% for the assignments, 30% for the three quizzes that you got, and 40% for the final test. So this score is going to be different according to that. All of this is going to be only 30%, all right, these assignments. From this one, three of them, right, we're going to see what's the average. That's going to be the 30, and one that is actually this one over here. Let me see. This one is going to be 40. All right, that's how we are going to be dividing the grades and the scores. But let's go to the presentation first. I work with this. This is the only one we are missing. So let me open it and let me start with today's presentation. Okay, so this is also very basic, but it's important to be sure that everything is clear. And again, after that, I work on the general review. Now, what are articles? Articles are words that define a noun as a specific or unspecific, right? So you have definite and indefinite articles. All right, those two types are the main articles that we got, as you can see over here. Now, again, this is basic, but perhaps the definite one is going to be interesting for today's presentation. That is going to be short once again. Now, the definite article, we know that is the, right, or the. It depends on the next word. It can be the or the, so it can change. It limits the meaning of a noun to one particular thing, right, or a group of things. But when we talk about thing, we're talking about perhaps a group or something that is considered as one. Okay, the example is this one, right? Your friend might ask, are you going to the party this weekend? So we say the party is not any party, right? It's not a party. Is one specific party, is the party. We know that. The definite article tells you that your friend is referring to a specific party that both of you know about. Okay, that is very important to take into account. It's very, very important. And why? Because again, there is a common mistake. Remember, it's not any, so it cannot be like general. Remember that a common mistake, I'm going to talk about it, is when you say, hey, the people are bad, right? When you say the people are bad and you're talking about the people, you're saying that you're talking about a specific people, not all people, all right? You can say, for example, the people in the party, okay, the people in this place, at this place. But if it's a general idea, we don't say the people are bad, we say people are bad, right? People in general for plural, and we don't use the definite article. Okay, that's always very, very important to know. But again, we have to know and refresh our minds by reading the following. The definite article can be used with singular, plural, or uncountable nouns. All right, again, that's also very important. Singular, plural, or uncountable nouns. It can be the exam, that's singular, the movie, that's singular, the United States, that's plural. And it can be uncountable, right? The money, the time. But again, you're going to say that if you're referring to something very specific. So the examples that we have here are, the exam is today. I didn't like the movie. I'll go to the United States. All right, that's definite. And again, we're following the rules. Now, the indefinite article, right, it can be actually two, right? A or N, A or N. And we also know that. It says, the indefinite article takes two forms, right? As I said, A or N. Now here, this is very important. It depends on the next word, right? If it begins with a consonant, it says, right? The word is A when it precedes a word that begins with a consonant. And it's N when it precedes a word that begins with a vowel. But actually, it's not what you see written. I mean, in most of the cases, it's going to be what you see. But it's better if you take your hearing into account. All right, because actually, what you hear is what you in the end, all right, is what you have to take even more into account. Why? Because you have some exceptions, and those exceptions are going to show that if we have a word that or whose sound is the consonant, all right, the sound of a consonant, we use e. If it's the sound of a vowel, we use n. And we realize that again because of certain exceptions. But here again, what we need to know is if it's singular, it starts with a consonant in writing, a doctor, right? She's a doctor. If it starts with a vowel, we see that it's an alligator. But again, this is the exception. For example, H. H is a consonant, so it starts with a consonant, but here the consonant is unpronounced. So it's honor, honor. So we say an honor, right? We don't say a honor, right? An honor. Because again, the sound is of a vowel. In this case, we don't say like hospital, right? We say a hospital. We don't say an hospital, right? A hospital, but an honor. So both are starting with H, but this H is unpronounced, and the hospital's H, it is pronounced. That's why it's different. With honor, you say N. With hospital, you say eh. Okay? And here we have more exceptions. But again, more than exceptions is that we are following the rule because it depends on the sound of the first letter of the word. So, an honest, because it's not honest, right? It will be a honest, but it's not ho, it's o. So, an honest man. A U is like Y, so it's like a consonant. Even though we see a vowel, it sounds like a consonant. So we say a United States senator. the same, a UK company, a university, right? All of them vowel, 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 but it doesn't sound as vowel. It sounds as the consonant Y. The same here, an L, that E is vowel. It's written as one consonant, but it sounds as vowel in this case. So we use N, an LCD screen, an HR department. Same logic, okay? Sound. The sound is going to be, all right, ultimately what we are going to take into account. Then, if we combine articles and adjectives, right, we only do this when we have one noun to use the article with. If we don't have the noun, we don't need the article for an adjective, okay? Only when it has a noun. So it says, sometimes an article modifies a noun that is also modified by an adjective. The usual word order is article plus adjective plus noun. If the article is definite, right, choose a or an based on the word that immediately follows it, right? A meeting, this is article and noun. A very important meeting, this is article and noun, but we have an adjective describing this and an adverb, putting more emphasis into the adjective, right? So a very important meeting. And we use a not because of very important. We never say an important, right? An important what? A very important what? We don't need to say a with these words. Only because of the word that is a noun, meeting, we use that article. So Elisa or Eliza will bring a small gift to Sophie's party, right? A small gift. That is not because of small, it is because of gift. I heard an interesting story yesterday. That N is not there because of interesting, it is there because of story, right? A story. But we say an interesting story because of the rule we're talking about, right? So again, this is basic, we know. And now this is the part that perhaps is going to be more useful for you. The rules to use definite articles. So rivers, mountains, mountain ranges, seas, oceans, and geographic areas are used with the before them. The Thames or Thames, the Alps, the Atlantic Ocean or Atlantic Ocean, the Middle East. So we have those categories, we use the. Unique things have the, for example, the sun, the moon, right? Because they are unique, at least in our solar system, all right? Or for our planet, for the Earth, right? We don't have a lot of moons, so we don't need to talk about more moons in our planet. So as it is unique, at least what we see, one moon, we need the. For musical instruments, right? The piano, the guitar, she plays the piano. Sports don't use an article, so we don't say again the football, we know that. Illnesses don't have articles, all right, but we say a cold or a headache, a stomach ache, right? But diseases and illnesses are not going to have articles. Jobs use a, right? Remember, it's incorrect if we say I'm teacher, I'm student. No, I'm a teacher, I'm a student, I'm a doctor, and so on. Then countries, right? They are not going to use articles if they are singular unless it is part of their name, and mainly when they are plural, as the People's Republic of China, the Netherlands, the United States of America, right? And finally, continents, towns, and streets don't have an article. So Africa, New York, Church Street, okay? And actually we have more. These are the last three. Theaters, cinemas, and hotels, they can have the Odeon, the Almeida, the Hilton, the abbreviations, the UN, the US, the IMF, and classes of people, the rich, the poor, the British, the French, right? When we're dividing that as classes of people or groups of people in general. And that's it. All right. As I said, again, it was a very short lesson. It's the only one that we got. We had to use today and tomorrow to practice, right? It was going to be to practice. But again, if it's not the case, I'm just going to give a general review. Tomorrow, if we don't have anything else, perhaps I'm going to give one last review tomorrow, or even I'm going to start with a new material. We're going to see how it goes. All right, but the lesson is now done. I'm going to sorry, it's a little bit laggy. I'm going to our document here on Pearson, and I'm going to give the short review to finish the class. Okay, it might take 10, 15 minutes, perhaps a little bit more, but if it's less, again, I'm going to finish the class here because there is so much to do. I really need to know how you're doing, and it's very important that you're here with me. So again, let's give me a minute. I'm going to open everything, and I'm going to start with the last review. Okay, let's begin. Again, this is not going to be in depth. This is not going to be like covering all the lessons, no, because we already covered them. This is only a review for you to refresh your mind and to be sure that all this content is clear to go to the next course. Okay? Simple present and present continuous. We know very well when to use them, right? Simple present for things that happen every day, perhaps, not always, for habits, routines, general characteristics, right? The present continuous for something that is happening now or something that is happening these days, even if it's not happening right now. That's very important to take into account. All right, so it can be I'm working right now, or you can say I'm working these weeks. But again, it doesn't have to be right now, but in most of the cases, it is used with that purpose. It's also very common to use frequency adverbs or adverbs of frequency with a simple present, right? Because it's not common if you say I go to the gym, right? So okay, but you say that because you want to say something that is your routine, you want to say the frequency with which that happens. If you don't, again, it sounds incomplete. It makes sense, but you don't say just I go to the gym, right? There has to be something there. You have to say, for example, I always go to the gym. I usually go to the gym. I often go to the gym, or I go to the gym on the weekends, or I go to the gym on Thursdays and Fridays, or I don't know, right? You need to give something extra because if you only say I go to the gym, it is correct, but something is missing over there. The purpose of using the simple present is that, all right? The idea of habit, routine, repetition. So here they are showing the same. And remember that we have some verbs that are called non-action verbs, stative verbs. that are not going to be used in continuous tenses, right? You have those want, like, know, own, right? Those are non-action or stative verbs. And we never say, I'm wanting this, I'm liking this, I'm knowing this, I'm owing this. No, owning, sorry. You say, I want it, I like it, I know it, right? Or I know that place, or I own this property, right? So we don't use continuous tenses with some verbs, the stative verbs. That's one. Let's keep going. For a suggestion, right, we use mainly some elements. Here we have, for example, let's. With let's, the base verb, right? Let's do this, let's do that. Let's go to the party, let's not go to the party. One way for giving suggestions. Then you have why don't, one subject and the base verb. Why don't you go to the party? Why don't we go to the party together? Right? That's the next one. How about, that's pretty simple, right? How about plus gerund? So how about doing this? How about doing that? Or you directly mention the, let's call it the noun, right? How about a movie? How about, right, some food? So you give the, well, it's going to be the offer, right? You give that offer directly. And then you have why not? And why not is going to be like this. Why not come with us to Josh's party? Okay, why not? But again, review, I'm not going to spend more time in this one because this is pretty simple. And two and enough. This can cause sometimes confusion, so let's take a look at this. We can use to for exaggeration, enough to say that something is sufficient, but it depends, it's going to be affirmative or negative, right? To plus an adjective, sometimes that it says that it's impossible, right? Why something is impossible? It says, so I'm too tired to go. So that's like the consequence of being too tired, that I won't be able to go. And that's how we use the infinitive, right? Then you can say something like, I got home too late to see it. Again, it was too something, an exaggeration, something that is negative in most of the cases, to do something else. All right, in this case, too late to see something in a specific, right? That's also an example of to, that again, in many cases, it has a negative connotation. Enough, all right, it can be something positive because it's going to be what you need. Okay, that's going to be very important. So that's easy enough to do, and that's good, right? It means, again, that it's something that has the level of difficulty that we need to do it. And if it's easy enough, of course, we can do it, right? It says, right, to do, so I can do that. But again, it can be negative, so the meaning is going to be different, of course. Here, let's take a look at this. It says, right, notice the difference in word order when we use to or enough. To goes before the adjective or adverb, right? It's hard to understand, okay? Let's play it because they are going to show the difference. But again, I'm going to actually, without playing it, it's too hard to understand, right? If it's too, we say to here. But if it's enough, we say it's easy enough to understand. So when it's adjective, right, and if it's too, it goes before too hard. But if it's adjective and it's enough, it goes after the word easy enough. Okay, one more time. It's hard, too hard to understand. It's easy enough to understand. The first one is negative. The second one is something positive in a certain way, to say the least. Then you can also use for, okay, but you use a pronoun. And this is interesting. And after the pronoun, you're going to use the infinitive. So this is the example, right? It's easy enough for me to reach, right? It's good enough for us to take it. She's intelligent enough for me to think that she is the best. All right, so again, for plus pronoun plus infinitive. Again, that's something extra. We're practicing some extra details for reviewing. That's unit 1. Let's go to unit 2. And here. Okay, we practiced this many times, but again, we have to review. I think it's good now. Okay, it's good. So the present perfect, it is called the indefinite past. It can, not always, it can have a connection with the present, but not always. It can be a finished action, okay? It can be a finished action in the past. It's possible, but we never say when that action happened. All right, that's the most important part, the most important thing to know. So let's take a look at this, not those examples directly. So something that happened at some time in the past, but not at any particular time, right? That's indefinite past. Have you listened to the recording? Yes, John and I have both listened to it. We're not saying when. We cannot say when we're talking about the present perfect, sorry. Right? So indefinite past. Isn't interested in when, but actually we don't say it because we don't know, because we don't want to say that, because it's not important, because the most important thing there is the experience. In questions with the present perfect, we usually use ever, right? Have you ever? It means at some time before now, or right at some point in your life, anywhere, anytime, sorry, in your life. That's the meaning. And yes, you say, have you ever heard of Nick Crawford? And you say, yes, I have. No, I haven't. All right, again, it's pretty common to say that in questions. Then you can use never in affirmative sentences with a negative meaning, at no time before, right? So my sister has never heard of Nick Crawford, right? Has she ever been to a soccer game? No, never, right? She has never watched one on TV, right? Not even that. And that's the idea of something negative, okay? Now, we can also use some extra words as, or we can call them, right, sometimes the intensifiers or the modifiers, just recently, lately. And the three of them are very common with the present perfect. For example, John has just received a tip, or John has recently or lately at the beginning. Also, it depends. All right, it depends. And also you can take that into account that just is used in simple past in American English. Okay, it is more common, but it's important to know that the best option is to use it with the present perfect. And good. Okay, and this one usually goes right at the end or at the beginning. For example, here, all right, something has happened recently or something has happened lately. The meaning of both here is the same. Then, models of advice. This doesn't have to be long, we know this. Should, ought to, and had better. Should or advice recommendations also ought to, but with better is also a recommendation, but we would say strong, a very strong recommendation in the form of a warning. It's like a warning that can have some consequences. All right, so should and ought to give advice. Should to ask for advice, we don't use ought to, we know that. And for negative also we say, right, shouldn't. All right, and we don't use ought to in negative in American English. Then we have had better. Again, it's more of a warning, a very strong suggestion. It says stronger than should and ought to, right? And we always think of a consequence, right? We better find out fast or we'll lose the story. Okay, again, the logic over there is that there is a negative consequence if we don't do that. Again, we practice that, we know that. For the review, that's it. Future with will, we have be going to and we have will, right? We can use both of them for future plans. We have the contraction will, right? We use will for predictions, all right? Things that we think will happen. But these predictions are based on our opinion, okay? Our opinion, not evidence. Then you know how to work the contraction. No, right? No need to take a look at that. The contraction of negative, right? Will not is won't. We also know that. When we go, sorry, to the future with be going to, we talk about future plans. All right. Also to make predictions, but when we have evidence to talk about that prediction, right? We're going to find out. I'm going to call the audio department. They're probably going to need some time to analyze their recording. And again, then we have the two of them. Okay, use be going to, not will, when something in the present can make us, causes us, sorry, to make a prediction. This is what I said before. Evidence. This is the evidence that you need to mention that something, well, is going to happen, right? That's a prediction based on evidence. And that's the thing that we mentioned at the beginning. Use will and not be going to when we decide something right at the moment of speaking, right? When you are having a conversation and you decide at that moment, you say, I'll do that. You don't say, I'm going to do it, because it is not a plan. And as we say, we said before, right, for offerings, refusals, promises, all of them work with be going to, or in this case, sorry, with will. And that's future with the two forms that we got. Let's keep going. We are already in Unit 3. We already covered the present perfect and the simple past. We know the main differences, right? In terms of writing, the grammar structure, right? The organization of the words. We know that. We know that this is the indefinite past, something that started in the past and continues into the present. That's a possibility. We use the present perfect. The simple past, something that happened in the past, right? And only in the past. We don't see that in the present. We can talk about number of times. We can talk about indefinite past. We can talk about all the details that I mentioned before. We can simply not use time expressions. That's another possibility. But the possibility with simple past is that we can be very specific. We can be very definite with it. Okay, again, we covered that one. We have to be quick on that. Then the models, the abilities, can, could, right, be able to. That's very important. So can, to talk about present ability, right? Something that you can do. Negative, can't or cannot. That's also important. Here they are, yes, they are going to mention cool. Be able to can be used in any tense, right? Present, past, future, but mainly we're going to use it in future, right? So be able to can replace can, be able to can replace could, be able to is the only one for future. That's why it's the main thing that it does, right? Could, right, is for possibility. It's the past of can. So instead of I was able to do something, you can say I could do something. Okay? And once again, all of this is related to ability. We already covered this. We don't have to cover this in detail because there's no the time to do it. This is the third unit. So yes, we're going to finish. It's good. But again, we don't have the time to cover all of these units in detail because we already did it. I mean, more than units lessons. So couldn't, wasn't able to, right? To talk about possibility in negative. Something that was not a thing to happen because it was not possible. All right? Then, again, something common is to use it in the future. I hope he'll be able to solve it by tomorrow. Okay, it's like saying that he can solve it by tomorrow, but it's not possible to say that in real future. That's why we have to use will be able to. Then possessive pronouns. A pronoun, right, replaces a noun, for instance, right? He or Peter is going to be replaced by the pronoun, by the subject pronoun, he, right? We have object pronouns, like instead I'm going to call he, we say him, right? Him. But here we have possessive pronouns. So these are possessive words that are replacing the object. So we don't say it isn't my pencil. That's an adjective, a possessive adjective, my. But the possessive pronoun, mine, replaces pencil, replaces any object. That's why we call it pronoun, possessive pronoun. All right? So this is my story. This story is mine, or this is mine. But we don't say this story is my story or mine story. That's incorrect. Mine is replacing the idea of story in that way, right? It can be used as object. It can be used as subject. As it is a pronoun, it can be placed in many, right, parts of the sentence. But again, mainly it's going to be the subject or the object of that sentence. Then a very interesting way to use possessive is with of, right? Something of mine, right? Talia is a friend of mine. Nick was a classmate of hers. So again, we are talking about an object being, an object being replaced by a pronoun. It can be replaced by a subject pronoun, by an object pronoun, in this case by a possessive pronoun. All right? It can be singular or plural, but again, the S that it has, for example, hers, it doesn't mean that it's more than one object. No, it's just one object. But it is part of the structure. It is like that, the structure that it has. It has to be with that S, being singular or plural, sorry, it doesn't matter. And the last one, with this we finish today, the last lessons, tag questions and things that I covered already. So, tag questions, right, are very short questions, like yes, no questions at the end of a statement to confirm, to verify something. So you remember me, don't you? Right? It's like saying, right, correct. I want to confirm that that is correct. Okay, you remember me, don't you? It's fun too, isn't it? So again, confirmation. It can be in any tense, present, past, future. We have rules. We learned those rules. We cannot review that now. But again, and because it takes a whole class or it takes a lot of time, and to review all of this in detail is not possible. So tag question is made of a statement and a tag, right? You know, I know you, don't I? All right. Actually, I want to confirm that same idea to myself. Then, you were in my class, weren't you? Nick was in your class, wasn't he? So we remember the rules. If the statement is affirmative, the tag question is negative. If the statement is negative, one more time. Okay, I got lost. If the statement is affirmative, the tag question is negative. If the statement is negative, the tag question is affirmative. We have to identify the auxiliary. The only ones that are tricky, right, are the ones in the simple tenses, right? Simple present and simple past. But the rest of them, you see them. The auxiliary can be will, would, can, is, are, was, were, right? If you see the verb to be, it is the verb to be. If you see a model, it is a model. If you don't see any auxiliary and you only see a verb, see verbs that are not auxiliaries, like no, like, you know that auxiliaries can be, in that case, do or does. And if it's past, did, right? We know that, but we have to reinforce that knowledge. this is what I was saying, right? Statement affirmative, tag question negative, and vice versa. All right? If it's negative, affirmative, as we said, that's vice versa, right? Here, if we see the verb to be, we use the verb to be. If we don't see the verb to be, we have something called helping verbs. Do, be, have, and they are going to be the ones, right? You are, aren't you? You don't, do. We can, can't. All right? It's very important to take that into account. I know you, don't I? Right? If we don't see the verb to be, we have to use a form of do in the tag question. This is the simple tense. We talked about it. We know the rule. So, I know you. We don't have auxiliaries, but we know that the auxiliary in the simple present is do or can be does. In this case, it's do because I, right? I do. So, affirmative, negative, don't. The subject, the subject, yes, that is a pronoun. We put it there. We studied together. This is past. This is not auxiliary. This is not a helping verb, right? This is only a verb. So what is the auxiliary that we use in past, in simple past? Did, right? We use did as our auxiliary. So we studied together for the final. If it's affirmative, negative, didn't, and then the subject pronoun that is we. Okay, we got that. Adjectives and adverbs. We know this. Again, adjectives describe people, objects. Adverbs describe actions, describe other descriptions to give more intensity or to modify them. And they describe also other adverbs. Okay, so adverbs describe verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Tough, ready, those are adjectives. Hard and fluently, those are adverbs. Hard, it's also an adjective. So hard is adjective and hard is adverb, right? But again, with that logic, we know. We use adjectives to describe a people or a thing, or a person. we use adjectives to describe a person or a thing. Adjectives can go before the noun, right? A good dog, a nice person, before the noun. It can be after a linking verb, right? She is beautiful is the linking verb. She is beautiful, describing a person. Mm-hmm. We use adverbs to describe actions. Okay, adverbs of manner describe how something is done. I speak French. How do I speak French? I speak French fluently. Don't judge me so quickly, right? How shouldn't I judge you? Quickly. It's manner. All right? Then, this is important. In 80, 90% of the, no, not 80, 90, 95% of the cases, it's going to be ly, those adverbs of manner. For example, he decided how quickly, all right? But it's not the case for every adjective. For example, well, right? Well is an adjective, but we don't say welly, right? Well is also the adverb. Hard is an adjective and it's an adverb, right? Hardly, it means something different, as you can see over there. Late is the adjective and late is the adverb. Why? Because lately is a different word that means recently. And finally, actually, we don't need to cover this. I'm just going to open to show you. This is the articles. We covered this today, right? Indefinite can be a or an, definite the. We know the indefinite is only going to go with a or an for singular, right? Nouns. But definite can be for singular nouns, for plurals, and for, we call that uncountable nouns. Okay, so for countable nouns, plural or singular, and for uncountable nouns, that's the definite article used for, right? We know when to use a or an, we know the rules, we know that it's the consonant sounds and the vowel sounds, not how it is written. It's a good thing because most of the cases what it's written is going to decide that, but the sound is more important, even more important here. Then we know about the usage of the, and we know some cases in which we use, and we have this part to verify that. Okay. With that, again, I didn't spend a lot of time in the last one because that's something that we finished today. That is going to be the class for today. All right. I mean, I'm going to give more details, but we still have tomorrow's class. Well, not tomorrow's, Wednesday's class, right? If you are in the class, we're going to practice. We need to practice. I need to be sure that this is clear. We have the assignments, but it is different. All right. If we get to practice together, it's going to be better. But again, for today's class, that's it. We still have until Wednesday, right, to cover this course. Then we start with the next one that is going to be A8. Look, it's very important to see what we're going to do because in these classes, one of the rules, if I'm not wrong, is to be in the class for practicing. I don't know how we're going to be working with that because all the classes are also prepared and they take into account the time of practicing that we have together. So I make you write some examples and I can verify every time that everything is going well. Okay, but again, that's going to be something that management will tell me or you will decide at the end. But that's it for this class. I'll see you hopefully on Wednesday. All right, keep working. It's good that you finish with everything already. That's always positive. On Wednesday, we finish everything. And about this unit, actually, we already finished everything. So we'll review, we see some extra things. If we have the time, I believe we're going to start with the next course. But officially, it should start on Thursday. All right, so that's it. See you Wednesday.